Hello, BookTube. I'm here with Luis,
Hi everyone.
and the last time I had someone in the channel, we had a library tour,
Mm.
but that's not what we are going to do today because this is my library, and I don't do that yet. Today we are going to talk about one specific book, and it is.
100 years of solitude.
And how do you say in Spanish?
100 años de soledad.
Cien años de soledad. Did I say right?
Yeah, say correctly.
Because Luis is from Venezuela, right?
Okay.
And right behind him, okay, this is the greatest books of the Western world collection, but the bottom shelves of this bookcase is Spanish books, and here, oh, I should have got this before. Here, I have my copy in Spanish of 100 Years of Solitude. This edition is very good. It's from the Royal Spanish Academy. Have you seen this edition?
Oh yeah, I had Don Quixote.
Oh, you have
Don Quixote, but it was from the library,
Quixote.
so it wasn't mine actually.
Yeah, I really wanted to buy Don Quixote from this edition because this edition is from the Royal Spanish Academy.
Yeah.
Not only the binding is really good because it's hardcover, really good binding, really good paper. They have the ribbon marking, but they also have like a bunch, like 100 pages of critical commentary on the book. And today we are going to talk about it. So I've read in Spanish. Spanish isn't my first language, but I went through it. I didn't think it was linguistically. I didn't think it was challenging.
Challenging. Yeah, it's because I don't know when like formal Spanish and Portuguese they are so like alike.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not kind of hard to read. For instance, when I read for the first time here, I had a copy of the Chronicles of Ice and
Song of Ice and Fire.
Ice and Fire. I realized that Portuguese is so alike to Spanish.
Yes.
When it's formal. But it's a different subject, a different situation when you're, for example, you're talking with someone because it's really different. It's really different.
Formal, like highfalutin written Portuguese and highfalutin written Spanish are very similar, but the actual day-to-day use of the language are completely different.
It's a different kind of.
Yeah, it's almost like when you in spoken day-to-day language, Portuguese and Spanish are like English and Dutch, right?
Yeah, it's something. Yeah, it's
English and Dutch.
Yeah,
it's not if you don't study, it's not mutually intelligible very much.
No.
But yeah, when have you read this book?
I actually read at school because the teachers it was like an assignment to read for a test, but actually, to be kind of honest, I didn't read Spanish, so I kind of regret it. And then I came here in Brazil, and then I wanted to finish the book. And I read in Portuguese. Actually, I read it in Portuguese, and I didn't understand. And yeah, that's my story regarding 100 Years of Solitude.
So it was like a mandatory reading
in
high school.
Yeah.
Okay, the same way here Machado de Assis is mandatory reading.
Yeah, it's kind of.
So we have quite a funny situation. My native language isn't Spanish, and I read the book in Spanish. His native language is Spanish, but he read it in Portuguese.
Yeah, that's kind of
ironic. Yeah, that is a big irony over there. But when I've read this book, I think it was this book was a buddy read with Professor Carla,
Yeah, Professor Carla.
a professor from our pathology department, which is where he does his PhD. I had a buddy read with her with this book. That was in like 2022.
I remember. I recall it that like you were talking about
Yeah.
this book.
And then you pretended you read it in high school, and then when have you actually read it for real?
Or this
Yeah,
book,
yeah.
I read it in 2015.
2015. Yeah, so
I
that is
finished
like
the book in
that is
2015.
that's like 4 years ago. We are in 2019. That was 11 years ago.
Yeah, that was.
Wow, that was
It was a, yeah.
yeah. So your impressions of the book 10 years later.
My 10 years later, my impressions of the book. First of all, Gabriel Garcia Marquez is an author that I kind of acquainted. Like I already read two books, 100 Years of Solitude and Love is a Time of Cholera. That actually is my second favorite book of all time.
I also have that one in the shelf. Can you get it? Is that a yellow?
It's a yellow one.
Yeah.
Here. Yeah, I love this book. This is my second favorite book.
So here we have another book from. How do you actually say his surname in Spanish?
Marquez.
Marquez.
Marquez, yeah.
It's not Marquez.
I think it's Marquez.
Okay,
It's Marquez.
okay,
In
Marquez.
English, I don't know. I think
In English, for some reason they changed the stress, so it's Marquez.
maybe.
So, but in Spanish it's Marquez.
I see.
Okay,
Yeah.
Gabriel Garcia Marquez.
Oh, Garcia
Marquez. Okay.
Yeah.
So you also read Love in Times of Cholera. I haven't read this one yet, but
I think you should. I love this book. I love this book. It's a love story. I'm
Mhm.
kind of fond into love stories, and yeah, you should read it.
but anyway.
Well, talking
yeah.
now, changing the subject. Yeah. So when you're acquainted to the author's style of writing style, you realize that he's kind of how do I say it? He's a peculiar one. He's an author, a peculiar type of writing. I think that it's for me that it's great because most when you read a book, most of the authors that you read, they kind of like repeating the same style, the same substance, and
very bland prose.
Yeah,
like
and
that is disheartening. Most books that you just get in the library or a bookshop, the prose is indistinguishable.
Yeah,
but Marquez, there is no way you read a paragraph and you think it's not him.
Yeah, and it's something that caught my attention. It gets my attention every time I read Garcia Marquez because like one page is like entire full lore.
Yeah,
it's something that I realized. Like he can write like an entire story with only one page.
Yeah.
Yeah, his creativity is something that it has to be respected, and it is respected because he can like from nowhere, like he can create something out of nowhere. Like
one of the things that I really liked about 100 Years of Solitude is that every paragraph that you read, you have a deep impression that you are dipping your fingers into a much older and complex story. And that plays into what you said. Every paragraph in between the lines has a huge mythology. And because of this, I was constantly having this feeling that I was tapping into secret knowledge that no one should have. You know what? This feeling was the same feeling I had when I was a teenager and I watched Full Metal Alchemist.
Yeah, it has this. Yeah, it has because coincidentally, we're talking about 100 Years Solitude. Most of the story it relates to alchemy.
Yeah,
As
yeah,
a
yeah,
full metal
yeah,
alchemist, it's
yeah.
about
Because
alchemy.
there's a lot of alchemy is a theme in the book. I hadn't made that connection. That's
Yeah, it makes it.
yeah, interesting.
Because
Yeah.
there's this series too of in Netflix, and I watched and I also could recall some things from here and there.
Mhm.
But yeah, alchemy is an important subject in the book, and it has this like something like it's kind of nostalgic, like it's something like you felt before as a child when you
Yeah,
read it,
yeah,
isn't it?
yeah. Every sentence in this book has a touch of nostalgia to it.
Nostalgic to it.
Yeah, yeah. And one thing that I really like about the prose of 100 Years of Solitude is the thing is what 450 pages or
Something like that. Yeah, it's kind of like 400,
Okay,
450 something like
this
that.
one is 540 something, but it has 100 pages of critical apparatus, so 450, and there is barely no dialogue.
Yeah, that it's very
Yeah.
common from Marcus prose, even in Love in Time of Color.
Yeah.
This I love his approach because it's kind of like, for example, sometimes when you read a dialogue, maybe it's too,
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe kind of obvious, or maybe it didn't portray correctly a character's personality. He can do that without it, without a necessity of a dialogue. I think it's interesting because like it's a like I don't know how to say, like kind of portrays this mystery.
Yeah.
There is a mystery
Mhm.
in each character because there's no need to dialogue, or maybe like few sentences of each character. I think it's interesting in that regard.
I think the book is 450 pages. I think it has like 10 pages of dialogue.
Yeah.
The remaining 440 pages is just description.
Yeah, he's not...
Just narration, pure narration, pure description, no dialogue. Like most of the book looks like this, just walls of text, no dialogue, and it is amazing. Like let me try to find some dialogue. Like here, you have a little tiny bit of dialogue, but that's it. You have like this amount of dialogue of 6 lines and then 20 pages of description, and that is unusual. Most people don't write like that. And when I was reading this book, I was like, for bloody hell, mate! I should have read this book when I was a teenager, because this was the writing style that I was looking for.
Yeah, I remember that. I recall that you said to me one time ago.
Yeah.
That you...
This was the way that I write. That I write is also little dialogue, more dialogue than Marquez. But I also like to write with very little
There's
dialogue
something
and a
like
lot of
fluid.
Yeah.
Like something like a brainstorming, like you write from... I remember Vargas Llosa talking about Marquez, about his approaching of writing style. He says like he's much into an intuitive, like he doesn't plan too much. It's just like something like he comes into his mind and you just write the all down.
However, it's not a stream of consciousness.
No, it's not stream of
It's
consciousness.
It's different, but I see what you mean.
Yeah, it's different. And you're talking about the dialogues. Most of the dialogues are like how do I say, are direct in a sense that they're like finish a part of the story. They're so like determinant. Like for example, you read a dialogue. Sometimes they're interesting, but what is interesting about Garcia Marquez that are short and like change the whole stuff. Like for example, there's a part like there in I don't want to mention too much spoilers, but there's a part like, for example, there's this beef, there's this trifle, there's the situation between Jose Arcadio Buendia, and a person like talking bad about her Ursula, that
Yeah,
is his
Ursula.
wife, or yeah. And then Jose Arcadio says, "Well, the next day you die," something like that.
Yeah,
There's this kind of sentence like uh, they're so like, how do I say it? They change the situation one way or another. Sometimes dialogue is just like a complementation of the chapter. He like Garcia Marquez used the dialogue to like finish something and start another thing.
Yes, like the two, you have like 15 pages of just a block of prose, and then you have a 4-line dialogue, which works like a full stop.
Yeah, exactly.
In the entire book, people never talk directly, only through the prose of Marquez. And when they talk, it's a full stop. And like this book is known for being the one of the, maybe the greatest example of magical realism.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
And when it comes to literature, uh, postmodernism is like my thing. My thing is postmodernism. One of my favorite writers of all time is Umberto Eco, which is, and one of my favorite books is Foucault's Pendulum. Unfortunately, only 3 people in the entire world ever read this book, so I can't have a conversation like this with them.
Yeah.
Me, Eco himself, and Jason Harrigan, whom you do not know. But anyway, I really like postmodernism in literature. I hate everywhere else. I cannot stand French postmodern thinkers. Not my thing. But in literature, I love it. And like, do you know what is like the thing in postmodern novels?
The thing about postmodern.
Yeah, what is the thing? The thing that postmodern novels are trying to do.
I remember you told me, but I can't recall it, to be honest, about modern.
Yeah, like basically the thing in postmodern novels is something that Cervantes started. It's all throughout Don Quixote, which is playing with different realities.
Yeah.
Playing
That's
with
true.
different realities, and more importantly, breaking the barrier between those realities.
That's true. That's true.
And for example, in Foucault's Pendulum, what you Eco is playing with the reality of the book, the historical reality, and those two realities start to blend, and then you have the reality of the plan of the book, and then this invented reality inside the reality of the plan start to mix with the reality of the book, and because the reality of the book is all historical reality, it starts to blend with ours. I love that. And but 100 Years of Solitude does something, also plays with the reality, and I'm not even talking about the magical realism thing. The main way this book plays with separated realities and meshes these realities is through the genealogy of the family. And that's why people in this book have the same names. Because we are used to approach generations as separate things. You have one generation, and then you have the other generation, and those are different realities. And reality goes in steps, and these steps don't mix. However, over here, no. Over here, you have these different realities in different points of the genealogy of the family, but they start to mix. and that's why they have the same name, because you are breaking the barrier that separates the realities, the different genealogical realities inside a family. That is the main thing in this book for me.
Yeah, it's something that it makes sense because throughout the history, like the characters, I kind of like with the same name.
Yeah.
But it's something that it's also happens where, for example, with a family, sometimes like when there's an offspring, or for example, the genealogy.
Mhm.
For example, it is common, for example, for a father have
Yeah.
or the son the same name or something like that.
Mhm.
There's something that I realized about this book that it depicts very well the situation of the Latin American families. Like when I read this book, like I can recall, like I can say, like they go through the same like feelings or the same situations as my family,
Mhm.
or our families, for example, from my mother's or from my mother, from my father, like those situations, like when you play with your cousin, or when you play with your, for example, with your aunt, for example, when you try, like, for example, the daily basis.
Mhm.
I kind of feel into this book as well, like something like familiar,
Mhm.
something that's
Mhm.
very familiar. And for me, for me, it's great. I know other word to.
Yeah. That like a more general thing in Venezuela, Colombia, because like here in the urban rich parts of Brazil, that doesn't happen. That doesn't exist here. But I once met a guy who, and his name was Melchizedek the Third. Melchizedek. His father was Melchizedek, and his grandfather was Melchizedek. That was,
Yeah.
okay, okay. Make
Ah.
everybody called him Melk.
Okay, because of the long name. Yeah. Yeah, the thing is that, for example, when like families, for example, that have like that are very like extensive, like there are a lot of brothers and
Mhm.
siblings and stuff. It is common, like, for example, to see sometimes like we like overlook, or like our parents like are younger. For
Mhm.
example, we don't took notice about what they do. Only when like they grow up, like that, realize that they're big characters. But sometimes in our family we don't like, we like kind of underestimate.
Mhm.
When it's something like, for example, I want to recall, there's a book from Game on that's Coraline, that it's kind of took take that approach. Like sometimes it is common, because the main character is a 12-year-old
Mhm.
child, and it's common to underestimate people like are younger. But the truth that we cannot understand, or we cannot like took into consideration, is how great they're gonna be, or how important they're gonna be in the history. And
Mhm.
it happens in Garcia Marquez that there's characters that only mentioned like are younger, like 12 or 10 years old, and then like they're gonna be big, like they're gonna be interesting. Like there's a character like works with Melquiades, if I can recall it. Like they work with
Oh yeah, yeah,
photo
yeah. Uh-huh.
revealing.
Uh-huh.
At first you say, it's just a child, before it's just a child,
Mhm.
and then you realize that, and it happens with everybody. When we're younger, like, they don't took into consideration, but after someone like uh, with hobbies, like anyone has a kind of different kind of hobbies.
Our pizza arrived. Keep talking to the camera. I'll get the pizza.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's right.
Don't stop talking.
No, yeah, that's yeah. I'm gonna, and then with when we're younger, like as I said, when we're younger, the adults, they don't take into much into consideration. But as anybody, we have our hobbies, and that's how we're gonna grow. We're gonna develop with our interests, and how do we interact with the adults thereafter, like when we are gonna be older. And it happens like in our families. Like we see that there's a child, and then grow and see, oh, this guy is a great artist. This guy is a great engineer, or this guy is a... For me, I think it's one of the most, for me, things that caught get my attention on 100 Years of Solitude. Like this character development in all characters, like all are important in the story. All characters are important, and this development in each one, in each one of them, it's what is the magic that relies on the story. I was talking about this character development, that it happens in on everybody, like because sometimes in a book there's a main character and it focuses on him in its his character development. On 100 Years of Solitude is on anybody. It's on anybody that is mentioned on the book. So anybody is important, kind of important in the story.
Habemos pizza, but we'll finish the video first.
Yeah. And another thing about the book, I don't know if Marcel is listening, but since it's a magic realism tends to be like very gruesome books. Like they're very dark in a sense. Like it seems like a horror story. For me, it's one of the most darkest stories that I ever read. It's not a horror intended to be our horror story, but it's one of the most hardcore. And the reason why it's one of the most darkest books and one of the most horrid books that I've ever read is because since it's a magic realism book, it took the realism very realistic, because they took into consideration that a person borns, grows, and one time he's gonna die. Like any character that is described, like he passed through this situation. I'm don't gonna spoil too much, but any character, like he grows, develops, and dies, and it's the most cruel part or the most darkest part of of anybody. The most the grievance of the greatest fear of somebody is knowing that he's gonna die. He's gonna die, because in horror stories he took like this fantastic part of a monster of something, like for example supernatural, he's gonna kill you. But in this story it's different. Like you're gonna grow, you're gonna die, and it's true. It's true. It's true.
Like it's unsettling. It is a unsettling book, and magical realism basically started with the Metamorphosis by Franz Kafka. Have you read it?
Oh, of course I read it.
I don't think I have the Metamorphosis.
I have Kafka. I have.
I think I only have I think I only have the trial here. So magical realism kind of starts with Metamorphosis, but in Metamorphosis, it's a modern book. It's not postmodern, and what postmodernism will do with this element of the metamorphosis, the metamorphosis in magical realism, is that like in this book, like no wait, in the Metamorphosis, Gregor Samsa is one character, is the hook of the story. However, in this book and in magical realism in general, Gregor Samsa is everywhere. This book is populated by Gregor Samsas. you always have a different one in lurking, either in the center of the story or lurking around the story. And that is really interesting. I think that's a really interesting way of thinking about it. Is the world of Cien Años de Soledad is populated by a numberless amount of Gregor Samsas. And that's what I had to say. Something more? I'm hungry. I want to eat the pizza.
Something more I have to say?
Yeah.
Maybe I try to be brief about my thoughts about the book. And as I said, it's for someone like, for example, it's also a story that depicts Latin America, any country of Latin America, like the beginnings, and then every situation that a country goes through, like the modernization. Maybe since it's a book that it's 400 pages, maybe it's too short to tell a story about a country development, but it kind of like in a sense of on that reality that Garcia Marquez wants to show you. It tells very well how a country, the history of a country, and I think it works the value to read. It worth it, and because of any micro story of any character, and as well as of the description of the story by itself, and you can get immersed into the story. And one of the most important things about a book is how to make you feel, and it's a book that makes you through to a lot of feelings like happiness, joy, sadness, and grief. And I don't know. I think there's another thing I want to say, but I kind of forget. Well, no.
Well, thank you very much, Luis.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Luis with an S, right?
Yeah, that's it.
Luis with an S.
Because in Spanish or Latin America, like it's only Luis with S. In Brazil and Portugal, it's different.
Yeah.
And in other Portugal speaking countries.
Yeah. Because Spanish doesn't have the Z sound, right?
No, I don't think so. I don't think
Spanish doesn't have the palatal, the voiced palatal fricative Z.
Yeah.
I was trying the other day. I was trying to do like Madrid accent.
Mm-hmm.
So I was using the dental fricative to pronounce these. So like cabeza.
Cabeza.
Yeah. Zaragoza.
Zaragoza.
Yeah. I don't. It's not hard because well, I speak English, but I just forget to do it. I just forget. But anyway, thank you very much, BookTube. It was a pleasure to have this conversation about this great book with my. How long have we been friends? Like 70 years since World War II.
Yeah, like
about since World War II.
Yeah.
And I saw him being born. He saw me being born. Yeah, just like in a magical realism book. So I just lent him Blindness by Saramago, which is the other great postmodern writer. This time in Portugal, and this book is also magical realism. Maybe after you read it, and well, I don't live in this city anymore. 6 months from now, we can come here and do a video about this book.
Oh, for me, it's great.
Yeah. So in July, we'll talk about Blindness by Saramago.
Yeah.
Thank you, BookTube.
See you, everyone. Thank you.